Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Ask JV podcast. We've got something different for you this week. I'm going to take a week off, and we've got the man himself, Joey Sturgis, in answering questions instead of me. So hopefully you enjoy this episode. It's always good to get a different perspective on things and see how someone else would approach things. And, of course, we share a lot of the same approaches, but he's got his own unique outlook as well. And it's important to learn from a variety of sources and kind of combine it all together, and then in that way you kind of find your own style and your own stride, and you roll with that. So without further ado, here's Joey Sturgis answering your questions.
3, 2, 1. This is the Ask JV Show.
Our first question comes from Sam. How long did it take you before you personally liked your own mixes? I've mixed about 25 songs now, and I'm hearing improvements in each one, but I still think they sound amateur compared to commercial tracks. What point in your career did you finally start achieving mixes you felt were on the same level as other professionals?
I think this is actually more of an ongoing process for mixers. I personally think that if you always hate your mixes, that means that you're always improving. It's a really important way to approach mixing because it always keeps your standards high, and keeping your standards high will force you to basically compete with yourself all the time. I'm pretty much never happy with my mixes 100%. So I would say that initial phase of not liking your own work pretty much lasts a long time. You start to get a little bit more comfortable, but then after that, it's an ongoing process of just hating everything you do. And that's a good thing because it makes you a better mixer, and makes you try harder, and makes you care a lot more about your results.
Our next question comes from Charlie. I find myself cutting mid-frequencies a lot on vocals because when I compare my song to a pro one, the mids of the vocals in my song are always louder. Do you happen to make deep cuts like 9 dB at 500 to 1.5K? Also, I would love to solve this problem on the front end and cut the mids during the recording, but is that a good idea, or can I seriously make a mess?
The way I like to approach EQ is basically close my eyes and just use my ears. I think the most important thing about EQ is really just reaching a result that you're happy with. The motto really is, if it sounds good, it is good. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to push things too far, maybe go beyond the boundaries of what they've heard traditionally or formally, and I really just ignore that approach. I try to do whatever I think is right, whatever I think sounds great, and I'm not afraid to push things really far. I've seen people like Chris Lord-Alge do the same thing. He'll crank that EQ knob on his board as far as it'll go. If that's what he wants to do, that's what gets him the result that he's after, he does it. I would offer the same advice to you because that's what I've done in some of my records, and my records have obviously done very well. So there's a tip for you. EQ as far as you need to go, as far as you want to go. Don't be afraid to push yourself.
This question comes from Simon. I was wondering if you could talk about networking and building your business in the internet age. I know you've talked about the general growth pattern and that it comes down to mostly referrals over time and doing awesome work regardless what you get paid. My question is about whether the internet changes anything and what this means for those of us in smaller cities with a smaller market.
I think the internet doesn't really come in handy really unless after you have a really great product to start with. So the beginning of your career should really be focused on just creating a great product. And when I say product, I mean everything in terms of, being a cool person to hang out with, someone who's very interesting to talk to, a guy who offers a lot of value and advice to his clients, someone who's on time and can turn things in, and can be trusted. All these things package into what you would call your product. And once your product is really, really great, stable, solid, then you can use that as a platform to leverage different things like audiences on Facebook and people on Instagram and Twitter and all these other things that come into play additionally to word of mouth. So you're really not going to be leveraging those tools until after you've already created a name for yourself, and then it's just a matter of making sure that you're top of mind to anyone that would be willing to work with you. So if it's the metalcore scene that you really excel at, then you're going to want to make sure that your name is always being mentioned in the the articles that have to do with the metalcore scene and what's going on then and there at that time.
Our last question this week comes from Darren. How do you get a big, powerful low end that isn't boomy or overpowering and sits at a consistent level? Are you referencing your low end to some reference tracks, or does it just come with practice? Thanks for your insight.
I personally found, in my opinion, the secret to getting a really great, tight, and big low end is using multi-band compression. And I use it in multiple places in the mix. I like to do a multi-band compressor on my bass, multi-band compressor on the kick, and a multi-band compressor on the drum group, as well as a multi-band compressor on the whole master bus. And getting all these things to work together can really get your low end frequency range in the pocket and try to make that energy sort of more stable and less fluctuation and less movement. The biggest reason why you want to do that is the low end frequencies take longer to develop, and so when you're pushing the air, I like to try and make that speaker do it in a really consistent way, so that it's always the same level of loudness, per note and per frequency. Of course, without sacrificing the creativity of the track or what I'm trying to accomplish tone-wise. But the more consistent you can make it, and the less dynamics you can have in that range, the more stable and solid, I guess, your low end will sound, and that'll basically translate into making a big bottom end, and without overdoing it. So that's always been my trick. Another thing you can use is this plugin called Max Bass, which is made by Waves, which does some harmonic content modification, does some nice little tricky things to trick your ears into thinking that the low end is better on smaller speakers. So take a look at that, and happy mixing.
All right, hope you enjoyed that episode with Joey. Big thanks to him for coming on and answering questions this week. If you've got questions you want to get answered on the show, just go to askjvpod.com and submit them there. We've got a long lineup of questions now these days. They keep coming, they keep pouring in. So, but that's a good thing. It's good to ask questions and learn, and I love helping out as much as I can. And I know Joey does too. He's got some cool things going on online as well. So check out his website, joeysturgis.com, and also his mix academy, if you will, nailthemix.com. Check it out. And until next week, that's it.